Alrighty. So, welcome. It's MBTI week, as you know. So, the next video I wanted to talk about was Introverted Sensing. And I wanted to shed light on Introverted Sensing. And the question is, what is Introverted Sensing? We talked about Extroverted Sensing. And essentially, to keep things kind of simple, Extroverted Sensing is looking outward, moving towards outward experiences. Introverted Sensing is all about moving towards internal experiences. So what does that encompass? When we say introverted sensing or moving towards internal experiences, and it's very simple. Now it works a little bit different though. So extroverted sensing is predicated on the present moment and experiencing things outside of you in the present form. Introverted sensing is about experiencing things internally, but the thing about introverted sensing that's unique is it's predicated on the past. So what does that mean? Essentially what that means is you can experience a variety of experiences that mean something to you. And when we start talking about introverted sensing, we're starting to talk about meaning. When we talk about introverted sensing, we're talking about your internal world, what matters to you, what is important to you. So it begins with the body, first and foremost. Your body is something that you can sense, you can touch, you can feel. And the thing about introverted sensing is that since it's tied to the past, it will be related to sensations that you've experienced, extroverted sensory experiences, but that mattered to you, or that were of significance to you, or that were almost like things that you had a sentimental connection with. These are the things that play out in introverted sensing. So when we start talking about introverted sensing, I look at it like this. Imagine there's a timeline, and it begins from the beginning to the end, right? So imagine this is the beginning. This is where introverted sensing is, okay? And then next to introverted sensing, this is the earliest point of time for us to remember is introverted sensing, things that have already happened in the past. Then we have extroverted sensing, which are things that are happening in the present, like me and you right now. So we say it's right here. Then next to this is introverted intuition, which I'll talk about next. And then right next to introverted intuition is extroverted intuition. And what you're seeing is a timeline between introverted sensing, and it loops to extroverted intuition. It's almost like a loop. And what happens is you accumulate enough experiences in life, you begin to have a understanding of the world around you, or a reference for the way that you experience things, the things that you liked, the things that stood out to you. And based on that is where we begin to talk about introverted sensing, because introverted sensing is about the past, about things that have happened, about experiences that have happened. Were they good? Were they bad? As an introverted sensor, you have an ability to remember and experience things in your lifetime that could have been great or could have been horrible. And depending on that, unlike other types, you actually, that those things stay with you as an introverted sensor. As you move forward into the world as an introverted sensor, you're constantly making decisions predicated on what you've seen, on people, places, and things that you might have touched or interacted with. You see, introverted sensing is all about honor. It's all about duty, because it's all about carrying the duties that are necessary or that have been necessary in the past, right? Things that are needed for things to move forward, right? Introverted sensors are ones that are very keen to that, and it's very important that they take care of the things that they've had, that they maintain the things that they've had, that they carry on the duties and responsibilities that were needed, or that they saw a great value in the past. You see, so they use the past as an opportunity to understand the things in their life that they care about, but also understand the things in their life that they need to do. Introverted sensing is about the past. Introverted sensing is all about identifying the self and understanding where it fits with the rest of the world, predicated on what has been. So you can imagine, it says, how do I become wealthy? Introverted sensing is going to say, okay, what have wealthy people? What have the people that are wealthy? What have they done? Where are they? What are the professions that they've gotten into? It's very much so about understanding the past so that they can make the proper moves and decisions in the future. Compared to extroverted sensing, which is a bit different because extroverted sensing is more so about the present and experiencing things in the present. Introverted sensing is about saying, wait, what have I experienced? How do I feel about what I've experienced? What are the things that I notice when I experience that? And then that plays a role in what it does in the present moment next. You see, so it's very different in that regard. You have extroverted sensing, which is about moving forward. You have extroverted sensing, which is about moving backwards and saying, what have we encountered as we move forward? So as an introverted sensor, you can imagine there's many different positive and negatives that you might have come across, or positive and negatives that play a role in your experience. So first, let's talk about the cons of introverted sensing, or let's talk about the pros, my apologies. So in terms of the pros of introverted sensing, I mean, it's a very mature function. It's a function that has a duty factor to it, or a mature experience factor to it, meaning that the decisions that you make and the way that you go about things will be predicated on experience. It will be predicated on understanding, which can be looked at as very mature. You know what I mean? Introverted sensors tend to be people who have a lot of wisdom and who have a lot of information, because one thing that I didn't mention earlier about introverted sensing is it's all about memory. So people with introverted sensing have impeccable memories. A lot of them have photographic memories to a degree, or memories of a lot of different things, of a variety of different things. So as an introverted sensor, you have a great pool of information to draw from when you want to share information, right? So that's very key. Another big thing about introverted sensing that is remarkable is introverted sensors have a great ability to follow patterns that are practical. So let's say you want to work out. An introverted sensor is going to have an ability to follow a consistent routine, a consistent plan, and by that they'll be able to be very productive. The key thing about introverted sensing is about finding systems that work and that are effective, because once an introverted sensor can find systems that work and that are true and tried, they can follow that and be comfortable in that pattern, which will allow them to be very successful. Okay, so that's very key as well. Another big thing about introverted sensing is introverted sensing also has a lot of experiences like extroverted sensing, and because of that, it's able to craft up new systems or new ways to do things that will allow them to be practical, to be able to move in a positive in a positive way moving forward in their life, meaning that introverted sensors aren't the types that will repeat a lot of stupid mistakes if they are aware. They'll be able to say, okay, they're able to recognize what works and what doesn't work. Now, the only thing that keeps them caught up in cycles that are negative is that they are constantly either they're complacent, meaning they're used to that cycle and they don't really want to change because they don't feel like it, or they're in a situation where they really believe in their heart that they can change someone or something. The key for introverted sensors is realizing and using their great judgment of understanding, look, this hasn't worked already. This doesn't seem to work, and because of that, I will move forward. So introverted sensors definitely have that ability to do that because they have such wonderful memory in remembering the things that worked and the things that didn't work. You see what I'm saying? So that's very important. So those are some very good things that introverted sensors do. Some positives of having introverted sensing. It's about having a very strong memory, a very strong understanding of systems, and a very strong understanding of what works and what doesn't work, so that you can make the right actions moving forward. Now, negatively, the problem with introverted sensing is because it is predicated on the past, these people can be the types to be looked at as traditional, the types that could be looked at as unwilling to change. So that is a con, is that unlike other types like extroverted sensors where they have the ability to go with the flow and be present, introverted sensors take a much slower amount of time at times to process things as they come. If they already have an understanding of it, they can go right in there and kind of intuitively figure things out. But if they don't have a reference, they don't have that willpower to just jump out there and do stuff. They kind of want to know before they take the dive You know what I mean? So that's one thing that is a con. They don't have that malleability or that flexibility to just go with the flow like other types can. Another negative when it comes to introverted sensing is that it is very much so a function that's predicated on experiences, meaning that it's not going to be able to intuitively just figure things out quickly. It's a function that may require a lot of negative experiences or a lot of hands-on experiences before it is mature. So you'll notice that introverted sensors kind of move about things a little bit slower, or they can be considered very traditional and unable to be as flexible and move with the flow of things because they are kind of waiting for their proper time to adapt because they are predicated on the past, right? So that's considered a con as well. Another thing about introverted sensing is it's very sentimental in the fact that it can hang on to experiences, and that can be very good in certain aspects, but when we start talking about negative experiences that an introverted sensor can accumulate, it can be negative because what happens when they've experienced something very negative in their life that it can be even traumatic. It's much harder for introverted sensors to get through those situations than other types because introverted sensors can dwell on those situations, can replay those situations again and again. And because of that, it can be a very difficult and annoying experience for introverted sensors when they keep replaying, when they go through what we call loops of replaying negative experiences and wishing they can make things different when really there's nothing you can do about it. When you have a function that's predicated on the past in a world that's all about future and present, you can imagine the amount of difficulty you're going to experience naturally trying to move forward and be progressive, but you can't because you're constantly stuck on a past experience or trauma. So this is very big for introverted sensors. They're definitely the types that can't let go of a lot of experiences because they keep playing back again and again and again. And there are ways to take care of those issues, and for any people that need help with that, feel free to email me at johnny.speaks@gmail.com. But that's definitely a con of introverted sensing for a lot of people who have introverted sensing within their first 4 functions. That inability to do what extroverted sensors do so well, which is be present and keep moving forward. Introverted sensing naturally wants to look back and be like, well, why didn't they do it that way? Or why didn't I do it that way? And that can become a loop where you're trapped and stuck. And on an even deeper level, it becomes a personal hell because you're unable to move forward and you're constantly stuck in matter and situations that are weighing you down. So that is a huge problem with introverted sensing that a lot of introverted sensors experience. So those are kind of the things I just wanted to touch on. There's a lot more I could speak on, but look for the videos where I talk about the individual personality types if you want any specifics. But that's my spiel on introverted sensing. It's a wonderful function. If you want to be productive, you need introverted sensing to be productive, to know how to move forward in a positive way, to learn how to innovate and create. But the key is that you don't get stuck on your introverted sensing function where you're stuck in the past, where you're stuck on situations that don't benefit you. It's extremely important that you begin to utilize your other functions as well so that you can use your experiences from the past, from the introverted sensing, to be better rather than being trapped in that introverted sensing world of constantly thinking about, oh, I should have done it this way, I should have done it this way or that way. So with that being said, I hope you learned a lot, and we'll talk soon.